Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you listening my voice? Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon. Are you getting my voice? Anybody can? Are you getting my voice? Students?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Good afternoon. Yesterday, in our previous class, we completed a cultural developments during the Delhi Sultanate and southern part of India. Along with Delhi Sultanate, we also covered certain things regarding the developments of southern parts of India or southern kingdoms of India. Today we are going to discuss about a cultural changes in the Mughal and certain southern kingdoms in India. Okay, so you are aware that at the contemporary of Mughal period, Mughal rule, some important kingdoms also you find in southern part of India, like the Kakatiyas, Vijayanagara, Bahamani kingdom. These are certain kingdoms you find a contemporary to the Mughal ruling in India. Okay, today we going to cover the things which happened during this period. Okay, so first of all, we'll see the society and other aspects which are taken place within the Mughal India, first of all. Okay, so first of all, we're going to see the society, then the religion, then other cultural forms, then art and architecture. So accordingly, we'll go one by one, right? So first of all, we'll see the certain things regarding the Delhi Sultanate. First of all, we'll see how the society is there at that time. Okay, so the majority of the Indian society at the Mughal ruling is consists of the Hindu. Okay, so you find the both the people of Hindu and the Islam, but the majority people at that time were the Hindus. Okay, so Muslims are minority, but the rulers all the uh, rulers were the Muslims at that time. Okay, so the majority people were the Hindus. Traditionally, they were divided into the four class. Okay, you are well aware that the whole society which is divided into the four varnas. Okay, four classes are the four varnas. Okay, caste system had became very rigid. Okay, apart from the caste, there is a dilution of the class into evolution of the caste system we find. Okay, so here there is number of castes and subcastes you find, and hundreds of subcastes you find at that time. The Sudras were the lowest cadre at the in the Chaturvarna system, and apart from these Sudras, there are other outcasts you find at that time. Those were other than are out of the Chaturvarna system. Okay, so when you see about the Islamic society, you find that there is certain division among the Islamic society also, divided into certain sections: Sunnis, Shias, Bohras, and Khojas, etc. Okay, the Sunnis were the majority and also belonged to the privileged class because the emperors were the Sunnis. Okay, so the majority of majorities were the Sunnis, and the emperors or the rulers also belongs to the section of Sunnis. The sheikhs and sayyids also commanded respect in the Muslim society. Okay, the foreign Muslims like Arabs, Persians, Turks, Mongols, Uzbeks, and Abyssinians and Armenians also you find. It means it's a composite cultural structure you find, particularly during the Mughal period. Okay, so the Sufi saints and Bhakti saints laid stress on religious harmony, equality in society, and devotion to the God. Okay, so equality. Emperor Akbar founded a new religion of Din-i-Ilahi, but it could not attract many followers and collapsed within his death. Okay, so like Ashoka, where he started Dhamma as a way of life. In the similar way, um, uh, Akbar also started a new way of life, a new religion. We call it as a new way of life. Is a Dinhi Ilahi, but it's not attracted to the common people at that time. Only 12 officials which are attached to Akbar were the members in that Dinhi Ilahi. Finally, it's also lost its importance in after death of Akbar. Okay, so apart from these, there are other new faiths you find. Okay, so apart from these Dinhi Ilahi and Hindu and Islam, you find the other new faiths at that time. Okay, apart from the Hindu and Islam and Dinhi Ilahi, other religions also you find at that time. Among them, one is the Sikhism and next one is the Zoroastrianism. Okay, so Sikhism, you are well aware that Guru Nanak was the founder of the Sikhism, and whose spirit entered the second and the subsequent gurus till the 10th guru. Okay, you find 10 plus gurus in this Sikhism. Okay, among them, 3 to 5 gurus are important one, and Guru Ramdas, Guru Amardas, and Guru Govind Singh, and Tej Bahadur. These are the important among the 10 gurus. And the main motive of the Sikhism was basically believe in the formless God, equality of all mankind, need of Guru, and the Pahal tradition. Okay, so these are the main aims of this Sikhism. And among the 10 gurus, the Guru Govind, during the Guru Govind Singh, we find a important holy book for this Sikhism called as the Adi Granth and popularly known as the Guru Granth Sahib. Okay, so Guru Granth Sahib is a holy book for the Sikhs and which also called as the Adi Granth. And there are certain traditions you find. Basically, some gurus who started certain traditions in the Sikhism, like a guru who started a system of langar. Langar is a system called as a common dining system you find. Okay, so apart from or to avoid the class or caste system, all communities, the people of all communities as classes, they can come and sit together and eat is a system called as the langar. Okay, so the langar also you find within the Sikhism. And where the 10th Guru, who the Guru Govind, who started a new system called as the Khalsa. Okay, so Khalsa means a pure one. Okay, he ordained the Sikhs to a 5 oaths, namely keeping kesh, long hair and beard, and kanga comb, and kada a metallic bangle, and kirpan a sword, and the kacha a wear to extend to a little above the knees. Okay, so these are certain important forms which comes under the Khalsa, which is a important tradition the Sikhs may follow. Okay, so apart from these, the music has always been an important feature of Sikhism, and they believed that though music can attain the samadhi. Okay, so they followed certain bhajans and prayers in certain holy places while worshipping the god, right? So they strictly followed their teachings of Guru Nanak and other gurus of Sikhism. Okay, so Sikhism was a important a religion, particularly during this Mughal period. Okay, many gurus also who challenged the Mughal rulers sometimes. Okay, so Gurudev Bahadur and other important 2 more gurus also challenged these Mughal rulers at that time. And next one is the Zoroastrianism. Okay, so the Zoroastrianism is a Parsi religion founded by Zatushta or a Zoroaster in 18th century. He preached the monotheism in the region now known as the Persia. Okay, basically this is a Zoroastrianism which is started in the Persia and gradually which is entered in India, right? So the Zoroaster taught the worship of fire and presence of good and bad in the form of Ahura Mazda and Ahura Man. Okay, he also taught the ethical doctrine of kindness and charity. The doctrines are enriched in the Jandavasta. Jandavasta is an important or a holy book for the Zoroastrian. Okay, the Zoroastrian religion spread over the whole Persia and remained in dominant religion till the 18th century when the Muslim conquered this region. Most of the Parsis migrated to different parts of the world. They also came to India and settled in Navsari in Gujarat and later spread on almost part of India. Okay, so that's why nowadays you find particularly the Zoroastrianism in the majority in the Gujarat and adjoining parts only. Okay, so many important personalities in India or personalities of India you can find attached with the Zoroastrianism. Okay, so Dadabhai Nauroji and other Jamshedji Tata who are from this Zoroastrianism only. Okay, so apart from these religions, you also see certain development among the folk arts. Okay, so during the Mughal India, you find different types of groups or sects or races you find. Okay, apart from the religion, there are various groups and sects you find, and number of classes and number of classes and caste communities also you find. Okay, so the majority people who are living in the rural areas at that time, and you apart from the rural areas you find many urban centers, and basically these town life also you find at that time, where number of industries also developed at that time. Okay, so glass industry and textile industry, which are very much confined to these urban areas. Okay, so apart from the urban areas, you find many rural. It's nothing but the countryside. Okay, so when you see certain changes among the folk arts, basically you have to see certain things like the rural masses got opportunities to display their creative skills in many fields. Several occasions associated with agricultural operations, for example, tilling the soil, sowing of samplings, picking of cotton, pulling out weeds, and many other social functions provide opportunities for singing and dancing. Okay, so while doing these certain occupations, certain things, they also enjoyed with dancing and singing in their own dialects. Okay, so it is important to note that almost every region developed its own peculiar dance form with a local flavor. Thus, Garba, Kalabilla, Bangra, Gidda, bamboo dance, Lavani, and other important dance forms also came into existence during the Mughal period. And formal education was not considered very important for women, but this did not prevent them from showing their talent in various other fields. They displayed their creativity in the needlework. Okay, so apart from these various dance forms and singing, they also followed very important domestic work along with certain other works, particularly like embroidery or stitching their own cloths, and making bead chains, and these are certain other works they followed by women during the Mughal period by using their leisure time. Okay, so when you see certain dance forms, it appears that the dramatists have whom Bharata mentioned is Natya Shastra had not completely disappeared. Okay, so a certain classical dance we find at that time, and apart from the classical dance, which mentioned in the Natya Shastra, so certain other dance forms are emerged at that time. Among them, the tamasha and the Lavani forms of dance drama were developed in Maharashtra, and Pandavahinis in central India, and Miraisis in northern India applied such art forms with slight modifications. And the puppeteer, the bard, the puppeteers and bards are nothing but it's like a playing of Tolu Bommalu, and the bard and the mime moved from one place to another. These are forms also which is moved from one place to another and entertaining people in various ways. And the acrobat and juggler also found could be seen moving from one place to another. Okay, acrobat also a important a form of mixing of dance and a exercise. Okay, so in some areas the martial arts were developed, while wrestling has been popular over the India since time immemorial. Okay, and apart from these, you also find certain other things called as the painting and the music also. Okay, so when you see about the painting, which is much influenced by the Islamic culture on the Mughal painting. Okay, so the Mughal painting will start with the Humayun's period. Okay, so Humayun had spent more than 12 years in Persia as a refugee, and he take the shelter in the Persia. Okay, so he brought painters with him to India when he came back the rulers of Delhi once again, who adorned the throne in 1555. Okay, so famous painters among who brought among the Humayun was Mir Syed Ali and Abdul Samad, who nurtured the tradition of painting manuscript. An example of its Dastani Amir Hamza, which is nearly having 1,200 paintings in that. Okay, so the period also witnessed the flowering and portrait and miniature paintings, and seasons are Brahmsa painting also similarly given artistic forms. And apart from Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, and Shah Jahan continued to give patronage to the artists. As a result, the Mughal school of painting continued to flourish. Okay, Akbar, as a liberal ruler, extended his patronage to painting. He also employed a large number of Hindu painters like Dashwant and Baswan Lal. Consequently, there was a fusion of Persian and Indian styles during his period. Okay, during the Akbar's period, there is a mixing of the Persian and Indian styles at the time. Okay, so the Mughal school painting reached its zenith under the Jahangir, who was famous himself a painter. Okay, his court was adorned with famous painters like Ustad Abul Hasan, and Mansur was famous for his miniature printing during the Jahangir period. Okay, so beside the Mughal school, the Rajput and Pahari schools of paintings also received encouragement. Even the upper classes in the society started patronizing painters. Okay, as a result, the Havelis, like a big mansions of the rich, and the temples were profusely embellished with the paintings. Okay, these Havelis in Rajasthan attract a large number of tourists even today. Okay, many palaces and called as Havelis, which are with various paintings of the Mughals. You can see yet present day onwards, present day also. Okay, the Mughal school of painting from 16th to 18th century gave rise to the Indo-Persian school of miniature art. Okay, the Mughal court painters introduced landscapes together with human figures and costumes. Okay, so landscape with including the animal and plant figures also you find along with the costumes within the courts of these Mughal rulers. Okay, so apart from the painting, you also observe you also observe certain things about the music. Okay, the Mughal emperors Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan patronized several musicians. Tansen, who adorned the court of Akbar, not only sang the classical ragas but also composed new ones. Okay, so it is said that Shah Jahan himself was quite a good singer. These musicians entertained the emperor at different times of the day and different seasons with appropriate ragas. And they also entertain the emperors in different moods also. Okay, so with their ragas. A synthesis of Indo-Iranian music had started during Mughal rule. It developed further also. Okay, so it is interesting to note that Aurangzeb was against music, but the largest number of books on classical Indian music in Persia was written during his time. Okay, so Aurangzeb itself against the music, but during his time, number of books on music were written. Okay, in the north, a distinct school known as the Hindustani School of Music came to being, and its specialty lay in producing sweet and melodies to suit different moods of life. Okay, So Hindustani school of music has emerged, and the ragas and raginis were personified accordingly. And Kayal, Tumri, Gajal were also elaborated during this period. Tansen was an sense the pioneer of this school, Hindustani school of music. Okay. So similarly in the south, the Carnatic school of music has developed. However, ordinary people retain the flair of folk music and folk songs to commemorate their local chiefs like. Okay, so Alha Udal, Dulla Bhatti, Jamil Patta, etc. also you find at that time of Mughal. Okay, so apart from music, you find certain rise of modern Indian languages. We already discussed yesterday. Okay, so about the modern language which developed during the Mughal times, like apart from the Arabic and Persia, there is a new Sanskrit. There is a new language started, nothing but a Urdu, and many writings also you find in Urdu at that time. And gradually, the Urdu mainly developed around Delhi and gradually entered in southern part also. And later we call it as a Dakkani Urdu. Okay, so apart from the Urdu, other vernacular language also started. Okay, we already discussed in our last class also, like Bengali, Assamese, Oriya, and Kariboli, Punjabi, Gujarati, Marathi, Sindhi, Kashmiri, and other southern languages like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam. All these are the important languages which started within during the time of the Mughals. Okay, so when you see, there is a composite culture of Mughal. I will give one or two examples. We already discussed in our last class. Okay, so there is a Indo-Mughal culture. Okay, so it's a influence of Mughal culture on the existing culture at that time. Okay, the Mughal rulers discarded the Afghan titles of Sultan and the styled themselves as a Basha, emperor. Okay, and Diwani Panha, right, protector of the faith. Okay, so with discarded their own titles which are brought from the Persia, and they started using the Indianized titles from we can see the system from Mughal time onwards. Okay, so apart from this, to evoke reverence among the subject of the emperor, they started practice of Jaroka Darshan. Okay, so making public appearance through the special built windows. Okay, so visible to the common people by a emperor, which is started during the Mughal times onwards. Okay, so Mughal time onwards. Okay, so apart from these, you also observed certain things regarding art and architecture, basically. So, art and architecture. So, you are well aware that many important things you find in the Mughal art and architecture. Okay, it was in the field of art and architecture that the rulers of this period took a keen interest. The composite cultural characteristics of medieval period is amply witnessed in this field. Okay, a new style of architecture known as the Indo-Islamic style was born out of this fusion. The distinctive features of Indo-Islamic architecture were the dome, lofty flowers, or a minarets, arch, and a hall. Okay, these are the important features of Indo-Islamic art and architecture style which started during the Mughal India. Okay, the Mughal rulers were great lovers of nature. They took pleasure in spreading their time in build beautiful forts and gardens. The famous Mughal gardens like Shalimar Bagh and Nishant Bagh are important elements of our cultural heritage. Okay, apart from these, there are waterways and fountains crisscrossing these gardens, and finally, there were gardens with stages or level. Okay, so the gardens with stages or level also you find. Like in the Shalimar Garden, you find nearly 4 to 5 stages, and which the Shalimar Garden still existed in the Lahore, now the Pakistan. And the Lahore Garden has 3 stages. Okay, but a better example can be seen in India. It's called a Pinjore Garden. Okay, the Pinjore Garden, which is still in a Chandigarh Kalka Road, where you find 7 stage garden. Okay, so within the 7 stage, you also find certain fountains and waterways in between the garden. Okay, this is a unique style of the Mughals who built a certain gardens during Mughal period. Okay, so this was impressed the British much, and they created a 3 stage garden in the Vice Regal Lodge, now the Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. Okay, so the Rashtrapati Bhavan had a important garden which is on the which is a model of this Shalimar Garden. Okay, and the Pitradura, or a colored stone inlay work on marble, became very popular in the days of Shah Jahan, and finest example of this work available in the Red Fort and also Taj Mahal. Okay, so Red Fort and Taj Mahal were the two masterpieces. You say a better example of art and architecture of these Mughals. Okay, so besides the structures within the Fatehpur Sikri complex, the forts at Agra, Lahore, and Shahi Mosque in Delhi and Lahore are a important part of the Mughal heritage. Okay, so during the Mughal period, mosques, tombs of kings, and dargahs you may observe. These remains of these still existed in the various places of India and other parts. Okay, so we have another 5 minutes. Last 5 minutes, I will complete with some important things within the southern part of India at that time. Okay, so the contemporaries of the Mughal, you find the 2 or 3 important dynasties which ruled the southern India at that time. First one is a Vijayanagara and Kakatiya, and also a Bijapur kingdom. These are the important kingdoms at the time. I will give 1 or 2 examples of cultural developments during these periods. Okay, so we see the 1 or 2 importance regarding the Kakatiya dynasty. So during the Kakatiyas, there is a much development in the literature. You are well aware that Telugu literature had certain things or the certain aspects has taken place. Particularly during this period, Tikkana continued to work of Nannaya in translating the Sanskrit Mahabharata, and Tikkana has a major share in that. He wrote 15 parvas out of 18, and apart from the Tikkana, you also see certain other important rulers at the important authors at that time, like Marana, a disciple of Tikkana who wrote Markandeya Puranam, and Ketana was a author of Dashkumara Charitra and Vigneshwarayam, and Vigneswara's a Mitakshara, which is in Sanskrit, which is on Yagnavalika Spruti, also a work of the Ketana itself. Okay, so apart from these, Panditaradhya's Sivatattva Saramu and Palkuriki Somanada Basava Puranam and Panditaradhya Charita, also a important works you find within the Kakatiya period. Okay, so you see the art and architecture of Kakatiyas. You are all the Kakatiyan architecture was influenced by the Chalukya style, and which is on the Vastu and Shilpa, and Trikuta is a important structure they followed. Basically, the Trikuta having the 3 shikaras, which is you find at Anmakonda, popularly known as Thousand Pillar Temple. Okay, it is a uniform structure with a square hall in the center and three shrines protect in the east. Okay, the same Trikota style may find in the Thousand Pillar and Ramappa in other temple structures you find during the Kakatiya dynasty onwards. Okay, so apart from this, the Rangamandapa and also Rangamandapa and the writings of Bhagavatas on the walls of these temples also find in the architecture of Kakatiyas. Okay, so after Kakatiyas, there are other important things you may observe in the in Vijayanagara dynastic rule. Okay, so within the Vijayanagara dynastic rule, you are aware that there is a important things among the religion. One is the development of Shaivism, and next one is the Vaishnavism you find. And among the Shaivism, the Kalamuka and Pashpata sects, which are the important sects you find, and apart from the Veerashaivism. And Veerashaivism had the great pattern in the Kakatiya's times. Okay, so Veerashaiva Basava, who started the Veerashaivism, had the important had a patronized by certain the rulers of Kakatiya time onwards, and Kalamuka and Pashpata were important sects among the Shaivism as developed during this Vijayanagara period. Okay, so apart from this, the Shakti worship also a common during the Vijayanagara onwards. When you see the Vaishnavism, among the Vaishnavism also you find the two sects, Vadagalai and Tenagalai. Okay, so Vedanta Deshikar was leader of the farmer in the sense Vadagalai. Okay, so the Vadagalai sect believed in the Vedas, in the self-effort and a person before self-surrender to the God. And the Tenagalai sect on other side, which is believed that no self-effort was necessary for the divine grace and did not recognize the caste. Okay, so it did not recognize the caste. It's only shows interest on the egalitarian society. Okay, so among the varieties of these Vishnu can mention persons of the Vallabha sect, which is started by Vallabhacharya, who seems to be a contemporary of